Hello, as stated before in the previous video, that if a business statement passes through the qualitative aspects, qualitative characteristics, then it would be called an operating statement. However, for it to be reportable in the in the notes to account, it has to pass through the quantitative threshold. Now, what is the quantitative test threshold? The quantitative test threshold is divided into two: the 75% test and the 10% test. Now, first of all, let's look at the 75% test and the 10% test. So, basically, the 10% test, in which that it is, there are three, which is the revenue test, the profit and loss test, and the combined asset test. Now, how do we calculate the revenue test? How do we calculate the revenue test? In which that we take the revenue of sale of OS, and then we divide it of total sales, total revenue or sales of all the OS, and we times it by 100. If it exceeds 10%, we take it as an RS. If it does not, then we move on to the next test, in which is the profit and loss test. The profit or loss. Now, we have to remember that we have to take the absolute value. Therefore, if there it has a profit of 200 and it has a loss of 250, we have to take the loss of 250 and then we minus out the minus. So we just take the 250 value itself, not the negative. So we take 250, and then we have to divide it by total of profit and loss, whichever I of all the OS, and then we have to times it by 100, so that we find out if it's 10% or not. If it's more than 10%, we take it as an RS, as a reportable operating statement. If it's not, then we go through the next test, in which is the combined asset test. The combined asset test literally means the assets of OS divided into total asset of all OS. If it pass through, if it's, and then we times it by 100. If it's more than 10%, we take it as a reportable operating statement. If it's not, then we do not take it. However, if an OS fail all the 10% test, don't worry, there's always the 75% test. Now, what is the 75% test? First of all, we have to understand that when an OS does not meet the 10% step, it may be combined into all other statement category. Literally, all the different OS is combined into one category of OS. This is only if and only if all the previous RS does not, the external revenue of all those RS is not more than 75%. Now, to understand 75% test better, it would be best if you to look at an example. This particular example, he has 5 OS. However, only 3 of them passes the 10% test. OS1, OS2, OS3. Therefore, OS1 is reportable segment 1, OS2 is reportable segment 2, OS3 is reportable segment 3. Now, what we need to do is that we have to take all these 3 external revenue, and then we have to divide it over the total revenue of all the OS. If it's 75%, then only these 3 will become reportable segments. However, if these 3 is not does not combine into 75% or less, such as this example, combine all these 3 equals to 60%, then you have to combine the OS that has failed the 10% test into all other operating segments into becoming one RS. So in this example, OS1 is RS2, OS2 is RS2, OS3 is RS3. However, OS4 and 5 is RS4. And if we combine all of them, it would be more than 75%. So therefore, for this particular example, this company has 5 operating segments, however, has 4 reportable operating segments. That is all. Thank you for listening.